Hi, welcome back. I'm Barbara Swift, and we're doing part 3 of my Great Egret painting. This painting is quite large. If you watched 1 and 2, I had said it was 6 feet, but I meant 5 feet long by 36 inches in width, so it's quite a large painting. Largest one I've ever done, that's for sure. But I'm really having a lot of fun with it. So I've got most of my egret done at this point, which you can see in video 2. And I did a lot of the little feathers, those little fine feathers. But as I was going along, I realized I have a lot of stuff going on behind the feathers. So I want to do that first and then come back and I can do the feathers right on top of it because I'm using the Dr. P.H. Martin Bleed Proof White, which is totally opaque. So whatever I paint behind and I come back and paint those feathers in the bleed proof white, it's going to show up. So I won't have to worry about going around each and every feather. So that's what's really good about this bleed proof white. I love this stuff. So we're going to get started doing the vines and leaves. I took a lot of pictures of some of them that are growing on the trees around my home here in Florida. I'm going to share those with you so that you can see where we're going. But I'm going to take an artistic approach, just creative, kind of whimsical. I'm not going for realism. I'm not any good at it anyway, so this is what I like to do, and I hope you get something out of it. If you do, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up, give me a like. If you want to know when my next videos are coming out, hit that notification button. Okay, so let's get started on leaves and vines, finally. Here's what I have so far. So here's a lot of these plumage feathers that they display. I have a lot of them already painted in. And again, I used the Dr. P.H. Martin Bleed Proof White for those. And I didn't have to mask, well, I did mask over, where my feathers spines are. But I really kind of didn't have to. I could have just did that with the Bleed Proof White. But it was good. I can see exactly where I wanted them. And, to go with all of my little motion strokes and everything. So it was good that I did it that way, but I really didn't have to. So you can do whatever you want to do. But on the top and as well as on the bottom, I have these great big leaves. They're quite large, in real life. So they're pretty big, compared to the egret. The egret's really a large bird too. The Great Egret is all white, and it is about the size of a blue heron. So the blue herons are quite large. They can stand, 3-4 feet tall. So I'm trying to keep that kind of in perspective. Often I find these egrets hanging out in those trees. So, this is kind of a natural setting for it. I'm going to start out, I have my vine. You probably can't see it because I try to draw it very lightly, but you'll see as I paint it. And behind my vine already on the paper, I have all of these colors, these little motion marks in here, and I want those to show through. So I'm just kind of doing a layering effect. I'm not going to worry again about the spines of the feathers because I can come back and fill them in with bleed proof white. And I can also, if it looks different, I can just go through and do all the spines with that bleed proof white. Probably one of the last things that I do. But at least after I get done the background things. So we're going to start with some vines. And I'm just going to get out a round brush. You could use a flat brush if you wanted. I'm going to bring my little brush stand over here. And I have a lot of brushes to choose from. But I really kind of pick my same brushes all the time. So I have these really soft Da Vinci brushes. They would be good too. I also have... I'm thinking like a number 8 round, number 6 round. So let me get that out here. So here's my Da Vinci number 4. Here's the one that's a little bit larger. Oh, you know what? I might use this one here. This one is Escada number 8 and Alvaro Cascanet. He's probably an artist, I'm thinking. It might have been their design. or a favorite of theirs. And I'm also looking at my chart here behind me, and I'm going to use raw umber to start with because it's a very light, goldeny kind of in a brown family. So I'm going to make a puddle. It's important to make your puddles first on your palette. The reason why I like to make my puddles is for consistency. If you don't need consistency, then you can just mix it, you know, kind of on the side of your well there with a little bit of water. But I'm trying to get consistent, and I'm also trying to keep kind of transparent. I'm probably going to illustrate on top of this painting. It'll tell me as I go along. First thing I noticed though, there's kind of like a bamboo structure. So I noticed that these vines are in short segments, and off of each segment is the base of where the leaf was that had fallen away, and then it continued to grow beyond that. So I'm going to start by just putting in some little segment lines. So I'm going here on, starting on the bottom, and you know, they kind of, every so often they kind of jet out a little bit, and then over the opposite side I think would be like the leaf mark. I did have a picture here on my phone that I took, so I'm going to kind of hold my phone here. Yeah, and then like where it kind of goes off, that was where the leaf was. So I'm going to kind of draw, just kind of painting that in first, because that is like the lightest part of my painting back here. So start always lighter and then build up darker in watercolor. So I am just kind of looking, and they're kind of spaced pretty evenly, but you don't have to be super precise. You know, I'm just kind of making a little bigger spot where the little leaf, big leaf, most likely fell off in that section there. Kind of looking at my vine here on my drawing, and I got it crisscrossing. I kind of would like it to do sort of a figure 8 kind of shape. A little hair there. There we go. Intertwining. I want it to intertwine. Intertwine. So I'm thinking about that here as I'm drawing in these little section marks. And you know, I think I'll probably be illustrating over the top of this, so that might be kind of fun to, you know, I'm thinking about how I would go about doing that. As I'm painting, I'm always thinking of different ideas of how it should go together. I have some little tiny vines and some flowers in here as well. I'm thinking in that section I'm going to maybe just draw on it, maybe with some acrylic markers, and just kind of draw the outlines. I like to have some things that are lost, some things that are shadows, some things that are just illustrative. Just draw your eye in different places all over the painting. You know, maybe you wonder why I would go about painting it like that. And I mean, I kind of, this is a little different because I want all this stuff to show underneath. So it's a bit different for me because I've not done that before. I usually avoid that. But I found that kind of interesting to see. To me, it's like having the process, kind of the thought process behind how it all goes. So that's probably pretty good right there for now. And I'm hoping that you can see some of this, because I know it's really hard to get this big painting on the camera. It's really hard for you to see the whole thing here. So I'm going to do my best, and you can always ask me questions in the comments. Just say, hey, what were you doing there? You didn't show that too good, or whatever. So I like to get comments. Alright, so there's my sections that I have in here. And now I want to bring in different shades. So I'm not real concerned about making this look exactly like a photograph, but I want it to look like a vine. I want you to know what I'm getting at without being too technical and detailed. I just want it more whimsical. So right now, I got some burnt umber that I'm mixing a puddle of burnt umber, and I want it to be more on the lighter side, so I'm adding quite a bit of water to it. And at the same time, I'm taking my sepia, because it's almost like a gray with brown in it. I like the sepia a lot. So I'm going to take that too, and then it won't be too golden. I don't want it to be too golden. I want it to have a little bit of cooler colors to it. You got to think about the colors that are in your painting too. I mean, I could even put a little bit of blue in there for interest, just here and there, so just in case I want to do that. I think I'll get a little bit of some ultramarine blue mixed up here for a puddle, just in case I just want to drop it in. And also another good color might be a little bit of purple. So let me get my my purple. Which is bright clear violet. I'm sorry, I had to look on my color chart, because a lot of times I just go by the color and I don't think about what color they are, but and then when I go to rebuy them, I'm not sure what colors I used. So it's probably pretty good to document what colors you're using. So starting with my lightest color, I'm going to take that raw umber first. Even though I have it already in these little section marks that I made, I'm going to start down here. And I'm just going to kind of place it. And this is wet paint on dry paper. You could do it wet on wet too if you wanted to. Okay, so I got that, and then I'm gonna go up to my, oh, what did I use? Burnt umber, and I'm gonna determine now, so my light source is here, so this is my lighter side. So here is my darker side. And I'm going to start putting in some burnt umber, and I'm kind of going a little randomly, but I'm putting it mainly on my darker side. And where those kind of section marks have dried already, they are leaving me with a little, you know, when you paint over it again, you get a line where you painted. So I'm kind of using that. And I'm making it not super smooth. I'm kind of breaking that line up a little bit. And then I'm going to come with my sepia and kind of just drop it in on that shadow side. And maybe a little bit along the lines of these sections, because they kind of stick out. Then I'm going to come back with this ultramarine blue, and on this top part I'm putting that in, and as it mixes with my raw umber, I'm hoping to get, yeah, some shades of green. So yeah, I got a little bit of green in there, and that's probably enough information about that vine. So if I lift up my paper here a little bit, you can see here, I can get it in the camera view a little better for you. Ah, there we go. Here's what I just did right there. Okay, so right now I'll paint the one up above it. So the same procedure. I'm taking my lightest color first, and I'm just kind of dropping that in. And I'm leaving, you know, let it mark a little bit onto the dry, little section marks, and I'm kind of making them a little more uneven. And just dropping in my colors, keeping this kind of my lighter side. And I'm painting right over my masked off feather lines, but I can see where they're gonna go. I can see this when I come back to finish them. I can see. I'm gonna put a little sepia in here. Back ultramarine blue. I do like that color. I think it kind of goes with these motion marks I made, and it's good for shadows. And I'm just going to take it a little bit here and there, rinsing out my brush, and just kind of nudging it how I want it. I can wipe some out. So rinse my brush, dry it off, and then just mop it out. Okay, so I got some color there. And then when I come back and do my illustrating on top of that, and I might make some little circles where the leaves were attached at one point. You know, I'm trying to kind of think ahead as I'm painting. But I can always come back and add more to this if it's too light. But I want to kind of keep it in the background. I want my bird definitely to be the feature. So all of these little white feathers, or these little pin feathers, are all going to be on top of this right here. So I'm thinking about that as I'm painting along here. So here is my raw umber. Okay, up to there. Here's my other section now. So I've got the three, kind of browns, if you will. And I'm just kind of dropping in there. So this is kind of soft and smooth. Unevenness. Coming back, just some blue in there. Kind of fun just to lay colors in and just see what they want to do. Continuing up where my vine is. So here is my the vine that's next to it. So we're going to have to show a little definition between the two as well there. There's a flower right here. Trying to decide how I want to handle that. I might come back in. You know, I'm going to paint over it at this point. But I think I'm going to come back in and put in some acrylic pen. Little shadow right there where the two vines touch. And burnt umber, light raw umber into my blue and get a greenish tone going. Softening with just water. Remember to stop the video whenever you want. You can always start again, just pick up in the same spot. But if you want to paint along with me, you can do it like that. I would love to see what you come up with. So if you are painting along with me, let me know. Maybe send me a picture. You can send it to me on email, bswiftart@gmail.com, and I'd love to see it. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Mop out just a little bit, getting all kind of dark. That blue-green to show. Okay, I'm going to jump back down now to this vine over here. I don't think I can get my paper. Nope, that's as far as I can get it to go. So I hope you can see some of this. I gotta go that way, like that maybe. Doing the same thing anyway. I'm just going in with that raw umber, some burnt umbers, ultramarine blue, sepia. Use whatever colors you want. Here. A little bit of sepia on the bottom. Coming in with my blue, making some greens. I'm rinsing out my brush, just softening. Just with a damp brush, just going over those kind of seams and just softening them in. And I can see like this is way darker than here, but the bird is shading this area a little bit more probably than here if the sun is coming from this source. I could darken this up a little bit. And how I would do that is I would just put down first, because it's already dry. So first I want to put in my water. And then come back in with my color. See if I can make it the same color. So I'll come back up here now and do the same thing. A little bit of water. And just want to make that one side a little darker. Bring in my paints. Determine where I need it darker. With sepia. Ooh, really a lot of sepia. No problem. I'm gonna rinse my brush and just with just plain water, moving it around. Maybe a little bit more of that sepia down here while this is still wet. So I'm looking at the value of all of my painting here. So if some area is a lot darker while it's still wet, it's easier to make it match. That's what I'm doing there. So I think I've got, you know, the shadow line coming through. Now this is almost dry, but not quite. So I'm just gonna put my paint right over here. See, whoa, I just almost sent my whole palette flying across the room. Something I do. Okay, a little bit of this, a little definition here. Bringing in my blue. Kind of like the little kind of randomly spotty look here. Alright, so I am going to continue on with my vine. So now the next piece I have is right here, going down into there. So I have a piece that hugs this vine right here, but this has to dry first. So I can do that with the blow dryer, or I can just start working on another section and then come back. If you want to sit and watch me paint, I can speed this part up for you so that you can see it without, you know, taking the time that it's going to take to paint it with me. So we can do that. So I am going to go up to this section here. There's another piece of vine, and I'm going to paint on that for a while. And as I get up higher, I think it should be a little lighter because I don't think it's got so much things in front of it to cast a shadow onto it. So, you know, right in front of my bird here, he can be quite dark. So I have, you know, a section of my vine here, and I've already kind of put my little marks in there. So I don't want to do this one because it's touching that one and it's still wet. Okay, I painted my vine in here and finished that, and then I took my micron marker. These little micron markers are acid-free archival. I like to use the 05. They come in different colors, so I just took my brown one here and I just drew a couple little woody kind of marks on there. Most of it's going to get covered up with all of my feathers. But here I have some ferns going on and some big leaves. And then I have this teeny little vine kind of coming through. And I don't think I want to paint it in. I think I'm just going to draw it in with my micron. So I'm going to use a black one for this one. And I'm going to use my 05 again. And here it is. And I'm just going to draw with the black. And I have some little flowers in here that I was thinking of doing like a metallic purple on. I'm not real sure at this point. But these I call ghost flowers or ghost things because they're just kind of in the background, but they're not exactly detailed out and painted with a lot of color or anything. So I'm just going to draw these little viney leaves in here just with my black micron. Just sketching, which I love to do. Just drawing. It's very relaxing to me. And I can always come back and paint because when I paint over the micron will stay put. It won't move. So I can always come back and paint on top of what I have here. But for now, I just thought it might be kind of interesting just to have this vine just kind of coming through. The stem. And just kind of drawing it in there. It's in the background. It's not anything important for the subject, so I'm thinking I can leave it in the background, but I can always come back and paint a little bit on it, and I might just part of it maybe. That would be interesting. So that's what I'm trying to think of, things that are interesting for the viewer to observe. So not everything has to be expected. I like to have a little unexpected in there as well. So that's what we're looking at here. So I'm just kind of drawing in these little leaves. It's not any particular vine. I'm sure somewhere there's one like it. Just something I kind of made up in my head. Actually, when I was a little girl, I used to draw vines all over my homework, around the edges, and this is just kind of something that I used to like to draw or doodle. I always draw vines. Vines and little flowers, little circles. So here's my vines. I don't know if you can see them really well. Try to tilt it up a little bit better for you. So they are, oh, they're over here. See that? And you can see the little lines that I drew in my branches here. And for every single spine of a feather, it's going to have all those little white feathers coming. So a lot of this is going to be covered up. It's just kind of in the background. But I think that's what makes some paintings special, is the little details that you really kind of have to look for. I like doing that. I like to, have it as like a surprise element that you know, if you're really looking at the painting, you keep discovering more and more things. So that's what this is going to be. How about you? Do you guys like to, draw? You can always paint these in too. So you always make it your own style. Just kind of making it up as I go. I think it'll come up from here. And I realize it's really hard to see, so I'm kind of trying hard to describe what I'm doing, because I do know that, you know, this is such a large painting that it's nearly impossible to see what I'm working on here. I can't get on the table too much. I'm moving it around, trying to find a spot here so that you can see what I'm doing. Scrolling. So this line, come out to here. And I don't have too many vines. I just have this one on this side. I have a little bit coming down on the other side. It's not a focal point of the painting at all. It's just kind of some background stuff going on. So sometimes it's hard to know how much to put on. How much is going to be too much? Am I going to be like really cluttering up my painting? I'm good for that. I like a lot of details. I want to add everything I've ever thought of on the one painting. I can't save anything for the next painting. Are you like that too? I don't know. Just kind of got to do it all. But holding back and having some restraint is beautiful. And I always admire that in people's work. And I think, wow, how simplistic but so effective. But I'm one, you know, I like a lot of things going on. I like to always have things. Never want to be finished with a painting either. I always love working on it. And I always want to keep working on it. Oops, I lost my ink there. With the texture in the watercolor paper, sometimes it wants to, you know, take your pen and drag it in the direction of the texture in the paper. So, gotta be careful of that, and that's kind of what's happening here and there. So, you know, it's good to be kind of more free about things. Because then when that happens, it doesn't bother you so much. And I'm not worried. There's, you know, drawing underneath here in pencil. But I think once I get all my feathers on and all these vines drawn in, that's just, you know, some mark making in the background. Also, I have a little bit of marks coming through my painting. See, I don't know if you can see, like some of these feather lines that I kind of drew in there just with the pencil, but haven't painted them on, and then where the pencil kind of indented a little bit into the paper, the paint collected in that well, and it made another little line, which is a really cool mark showing the motion of the feathers, the wings, and how they're flapping. So I have these motion marks in here that are now kind of just barely peeking through underneath the branch. So that's what I meant, that I really wanted you to see all the layers in this painting, you know, how it came about. I want you to be able to look at it and go, oh, she must have painted those underneath there, and, you know, they're kind of showing through, but nothing's really in detail. You know, I didn't paint around it or anything like that, so pretty free. Like I said, something kind of new for me. I'm always playing, I'm always experimenting. I see things in other work that I admire, yet I don't want to copy it, but you know, I will try to incorporate some techniques, and usually it ends up being totally different by the time my brain has processed it and, you know, thought it thought it through and I've come up with some different twists on it, different ideas on something. And then it becomes nothing like the original inspiration. But that's okay. That is very okay with me. I want things to be as original as I can have them. Another little vine coming out here. And I've got some splotches, you know, from when we did those splatters, like right in the, so they're in there. There's all kinds of things going on in the background of this bird, yet I really want the bird to be the focus, so I don't want too much of all this detail to show. We will see how it all turns out. And isn't that the fun part of painting? We really don't know how it's going to turn out. I mean, I'm making this video and I could totally ruin this painting by the time I get to the end. Hopefully not. I don't think I will, but you know, you got a lot invested in it with a lot of time into filming and all the art that you know, you're painting and drawing, and you know, very rarely do I end up with a failure. Something I like about it, and if I like a few things about it, but not everything about it, I can always cut it up and make little bookmarks out of it, or you know, something, make it something else, repurpose it, if you will. So I think that's kind of pretty. I might want to add, so I've got 1, 2, 3, I've got this part here. And let's see, I'll add a few more leaves here on this side. And sometimes when I'm drawing, I like things very loose. So I have to be careful that I don't get too loosey-goosey and make it look like scribbles. Okay, so I've got those vines, which is fine. I'm going to leave those for now. I can always come back and add more if I want to. And I'm going to leave my fern alone at this point. I'm probably going to have to paint them in before I continue with all of these feathers. But right now, like these feathers, I can continue these on, and I probably will. I won't make you watch all that, but I can continue on with that. But first I want to do some of these purple flowers. So I have some beautiful metallic shimmery watercolor paints that I'm loving using. So I was thinking putting in these little flowers in a kind of a purpley pink color in those metallic paints and see how they'll show up. So let's see, I don't know where my paints are right now, so I'm gonna have to go find them, but I will come back and I'll show you what I did. So here are my metallic paints. They have many gorgeous colors, and I'm choosing to use this kind of purple right here, and I've got like a blue, purple, and a really midnight blue dark here. So I've already painted one of my flowers in here just to kind of, before I get going too deep into it. This I like because it shows up over the top, so it's kind of opaque. And just kind of drawing in some little bit shaggy on the top, like up here. If you can see that right here. So I like them because they do cover up a bit. So there is my little flower. I'll rinse my brush, and I'm coming back with this purple, royally purple color. I'm just deepening the center, a few brush strokes. That. And then I'm going to take a gold. So these shimmer. These are like, that's glitter sparkle, but they're really shimmery and they're pretty. Put the gold right in the very center, just a little bit. It's fun. It's kind of like jewelry, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. A little jewelry. And then I'm going to come over. Here's another flower right here. Hope you're seeing this okay. But I'm not going into too great a detail with these little flowers. They're just kind of simple. Okay, so I went ahead and finished painting in my purple flowers here. And I put the gold in the center and a little bit of that royal blue, purpley blue in there. I'm going to do some more. My battery went out as I was filming this, so it wasn't too much more. I just did some buds in that. But on the other side, on the bottom here, whoop, sorry about that, turning my paper, there we go, turn my paper, my watercolor paper around, and I have more to do all right in here. So I am going to go ahead and finish these vines towards the bottom of my bird, and some salt or something still there. Okay. And then I have these ferns and stuff that I'm probably going to be doing next. So, but for now I'm going to do these vines just like I did the other ones. I'm going to do just the leaves in the black, and then I'll paint the flowers. And after I'm done with that, I will show you what I did. Okay. Here's the bottom of my painting, and I went ahead and painted in those purple flowers there. You see that metallic shine on there, so pretty. Love that. Now I have my micron marker out, and I'm just going to come and outline around my little flowers to kind of go with the same look as the vine. So I'm just outlining around my flowers, and then I'm going to put in some little lines, just kind of showing the crepey texture of the petals. So they're kind of squiggly. And then I'm going to draw in some stamens and just put little black little dots on there for the tops. So I'm going to do another one here. Just kind of drawing in my flowers. So kind of an illustrative mood here. Some stamens. Start on my other flower. Sometimes when you're drawing over the top of paint, it'll get, if you on your marker a bit, and it'll stop your marker from writing. So I always have a little scrap paper here where you can kind of blot it off. And draw those little texture, little veins in my petals. Some can go all the way out. And then some stamens. In there. And then another thing I can do too is where I've drawn in here, you can still see some pencil marks, but the watercolor has gone over the pencil marks, and usually it's really hard to take away. So I find that with this little kind of dark green eraser, I'm not sure what kind it is, but it's my favorite because it takes away most of all my marks, but I don't mind them too much because they're kind of maker's marks. They're just telling you my process, how I got to it, but I don't want them to be distracting. So I want them to be really soft, and sometimes you can still erase if your paint isn't too heavy on top of your pencil lines. So it'll still erase some. So I'm just kind of cleaning it up, you know, here and there. Erase some of those pencil marks. Not getting too crazy about it. If they want to be there, they shall be. That's what they want to do. A little bud up here. So I'm just continuing on here with my petals. Some lines, little delicate lines. And then kind of in the direction that the flower's pointing in, drawing in my stamens. So this one seems to be pointing a little more downward. So I'm putting them in that way. Get the build up off of my marker there. So I only have a few more of these flowers to go, and then I'm going to start on the next step, which is going to be some of these ferns, because they're the only thing that's kind of in the way of my feathers at this point. So next I'll do the ferns. So the ferns we're going to paint in, they're the resurrection ferns. And we're going to do those with watercolor, not marker. And I'm going to try to put in a few colors in them and just kind of let them blend together. So a couple shades of greens and yellow, put a little yellow in there, and let them kind of blend as we're going. So that's the plan there. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Keep drawing here, just a couple more. And then I have these ones here to go over here. So, move this down a little bit more, get some of these shadings off of here. And come on in with my marker. I've got to clean it off again. Yeah, I got to keep that little scratch paper next to you, so you can always be fixing the tip on your marker. Stamens. The marker got clogged up again. There you go. Clean that off. Okay, I'm gonna go down here. Do a few of these little buds. Oh, if I can see, I must have dragged my hand in there. No, it's a good thing the leaf is. There's a leaf behind there, so you won't see it once I paint it. Otherwise, I would have had a smudge on my painting. The stamens. Oh, I did it there too. What's behind there? Oh boy. That's what happens when you're too impatient and you don't let everything dry thoroughly. There must have been some wet paint still there. Okay, one more flower. Get that one all drawn in, and then those are done. Yeah, the gold is a little bit still wet, and I think that's what's clogging up my marker. Stamens in there. Okay. All right, so there we have that. We'll move on then to the ferns, the resurrection ferns. Okay. So I have to go mix up some paint, erase a few more lines here and there, I think. I'm seeing them popping out here. Want to get them now, before I have more paint on top and make it harder for myself. Here's some here. Yeah, and that's where I smudged my paint, and I did a little bit here too. I think some of that will come off. Or I'll just paint something in there. There's a little bit of that gold, but that goes into that leaf there, so yeah. Just cleaning it up. Okay, I think that'll work. Alright, I'm going to mix up some paint. I'm going to use yellow green in my little ferns here. I want them to be bright in lime green. And some of it, you know, as it kind of goes behind the outer leaves, so the outer leaves are going to be lighter. The ones that are tucked in behind are going to be a little darker. So I'm going to mix a few greens here. Nice yellow green, sap green, and I have a really dusty, dark forest green in this Magello Mission Gold set I'm going to get out. And it is called Van Dyke Green. Van Dyke Green. I'm going to use that in there too. Okay, finally moving on to the foliage. I did go ahead and put in a whole bunch of these long feathers. And I did just about all of them. I see I missed this one. So I'm going to have to go back and finish that. But other than that, I've got them pretty much done. So now I'm going to move on to the little resurrection ferns here. So I'm thinking with all of these leaves and flowers and everything I have going on, I don't want it to overpower my egret itself. So we'll go this way. I don't know if you can see him very well, but he's pretty light because he's a white bird, and then, you know, the background isn't really dark, but it's just barely enough to make these feathers show up. So I don't want to overwhelm the bird. I still want it to be the focus. So I'm going to go very light with all of my foliage here. I'll probably come back and do a little doodling on it. You know, this is what I call doodling, these little vines and whatnot. But I want to start out super light. And I also want to think about lighting a bit. So I want to, you know, the things that are up top, I'm going to make lighter, like the sun shining on them. And the things that are behind, I want to make darker. So I'm going to start out, I'm just going to use a really fine brush. This is a number 0 Winsor Newton Series 7 brush. And I'm using my Magello Mission Gold paints. And I'm going to take like a yellow gold yellow, dark yellow, deep yellow, I guess you could say. So I'm going to get some water in that, and then I also have a yellow green, which is kind of a lime green color. So I'm over here mixing up some paints. Sorry, I probably should have made my puddles before I started filming, but that's what I did. And then I'm also going to take a little bit of sap green, because I like that sap green, and then the Van Dyke green from some really dark depth over there, and the Van Dyke green. Okay, so got puddles mixed up, and I'm mixing them up to maybe like a skim milk consistency. So I'm going to want to make this light and watery. So let's see, how do I want to start this? I'm going to start with, of course, my lightest color. So I'm going to take this deep yellow, and I know right off the bat that like this part right in here is going to be light, maybe this, but you know, right here can be light. I think this has to be darker because it's underneath this one. So I'm just kind of looking at it, assessing it a bit. I'm going to go with what I know for sure. So for sure I want to make this one light here. So I'm going to go in. And I think even that might be too dark for yellow. I'm going to water this down just a little bit more. Just putting some water on my brush. And then lightening this little section up just a bit. And it's going to dry lighter too. So I'm going to let that kind of start to dry and move on to some other ones here. I'm going to come back to it. So I got too much paint, so I'm just going to kind of skip around a little. Since these are so small, I don't have to do any wet on wet, or you know, it gives me a little bit more time to kind of work around them because there's not so much to paint, so I can come right back to it. I'm just kind of filling them in, and we'll try to remember to keep it light. Don't want it to be overpowering my main subject. So just putting in a little bit of that deep yellow. You can use any yellow that you want. And I think this one's going to be lighter. That one also. Just trying to keep this very light and soft. Which isn't really my style, is it? I like to do bright. A lot of my paintings are super bright. So kind of moving up this one side with my little yellow here. Anything that I am 100% positive is lighter is what I'm starting with, and then the rest will tell me what it needs to be as I go along. Now I'm not happy with just having one color on my leaves here, so I'm letting them almost dry, but when they're damp I'm going to come back. I'll show you what I'm going to do. And let's see, those are underneath. I'm going to leave that like that. So I'm going to come back now with my sap green, and I'm watering it down again like skim milk. And I'm getting a little bit more mixed up here. Okay. Alright, so still with this same fine brush. So like I started with these and they started to dry just a little bit. So I'm going to come and just touch in a little bit of this sap. And I'm mainly going to work around the edges here. Just letting it kind of put another tone into my my leaves here. Kind of messed up a little there. And I'm leaving a little bit of the yellow show through. Rinse my brush. And I'm going to grab a paper towel here. So I have a paper towel. I like to use the Viva paper towels. They're almost like cloth. And I'm just going to, with the clean brush now, I'm just kind of lifting out just a little bit of that color to keep it soft. And then, oops, there we go. Here's my green. Just adding a little bit darker on the outside. And try to stay in my lines, not too well. Come back, because I sort of want like this, the inside to be lighter and the outside slightly darker. And then I'm even going to come back now with a bit of the same of that deep yellow. And just in the center, I'm just dabbing it in a little bit there. So I'm going to continue on. So I've got my sap. Just kind of coming around. Dabbing it on the outside. Now this seems like it dried a little bit. I'm here in Florida and today it just is a little drier for us. We've been having a lot of rain. Things are drying faster than they have been the last few days. I think it's the weather has a lot to do with that. So I'm just going to come in with a clean brush. And just kind of mop out that little bit. And I'm going to come back in just the center with a little bit of yellow. And then just kind of deepen up a couple areas around the edges. I want it to have some detail. I just went back to the one on the top and kind of strengthened that look up a little bit more. There we go. I think that's very pretty. Okay, so coming back in with my, oops, I already did the yellow. Coming back in with yellow, and I already did yellow. Sap green. And just kind of coming around, dabbing a little bit in around the outside. Now this has dried, so you can see the difference there. It's not nearly as soft. I'm going to get some water on my brush and just take that inside edge and soften it into my leaf. And let the outside edge stay darker and crisper. Just working it. So I have a soft line on the inside. Just like negative painting. There we go. And then I'm going to take this, my yellow, and put it in the middle. A little bit more. There. Rinsed out my brush. Just dried it off on my paper towel, and I'm just coming back in and just blending. There. A little darker than this one, so I'm going to mop it. Do one more time. There we go. So now they're a little bit more even. I like that. It kind of gives it a little outline a bit, if you will, with it lighter in the middle. I do like that. And then when I come back and I do a little bit of illustration on top, I can maybe take a green acrylic pen, Posca pen, and I can draw like a little bit of details, maybe some little teeny dots around the edge is what I'm thinking. I don't want to get too crazy because I definitely want this to stand out. So hopefully I'm going to accomplish that by not making this any darker than it already is. So I'm going to go back in and then I'm going to finish my light area, so it's going to be darker underneath where there's fern leaves on top, so the ones on the bottom will definitely be darker. And then these ones just on the other side of the fern will be lighter. And then this might all be darker. So I'm going to go back in now and continue that on. And I can put this on fast forward so you don't have to watch every little detail, but just know that's what I'm doing. And I'll come back in and slow it down and explain what I'm doing as I go. Okay. So here we go. So we're going to go a little fast forward here. Okay, I'm going to try not to make you too dizzy. Can you... see what I'm doing there? You can see kind of outlines it a little bit. And you got some yellow, kind of glowing. That's what I wanted to get. So I'm going to continue on. Okay, well that's it for this video. I hope that you'll watch me in part 4 where we finish up a lot of these leaves and the details and then add the little splash of jewelry on top of everything to kind of make it special. Alright, well thank you, and until I see you next time, peace and love. Bye-bye.